What's going on, guys? It's the Ancient Greek here, and today we're going to be talking about Cleomenes III of Sparta. So, the year that we're talking about here, despite the fact that it says 304 BCE at the top of the screen, is 242 BC. Reason why it says 304 at the top is because that's just the time that the game is set at this point. So, born to an exiled Spartan, King Leonidas II, who was king of Sparta in the decade prior, Cleomenes started out as a small boy with an ambitious brother. That brother, Cleombrotus, became king before being ousted by the returning Leonidas II. Cleomenes' father, again, Leonidas II, is Cleomenes' father. So, Cleomenes at 18 was forced to marry the widow of Agis, a man who tried to take the throne after Cleombrotus was ousted by Leonidas II, and Agis was in turn executed by Leonidas II. Aegiatis is Agis' widow, who married Cleomenes when Cleomenes was 18 years old, and the marriage was organized by Leonidas II, Cleomenes' father. So, Cleomenes gets married, and later in 235 BC, he becomes the king of Sparta. Funny enough, after the death of his father Leonidas, shortly after Cleomenes became the king of Sparta, Cleomenes was inspired by the reforms Agis never got a chance to make, and decided to carry out his own reforms later on. But the first thing he would have to do would be to secure Spartan dominance in the Peloponnese being this entire island area down here. So as we zoom into this, we see the territory that Sparta would have controlled at the time, which is marked right here, including the island of Kythera. And Sparta was still hanging on, although their power wasn't anywhere near as good as it was when they had just won the Peloponnesian War. So, Aratus of Sicyon. Sicyon is a city around here, somewhere up here in Arcadia. You can't see it on the map here, but Sicyon is around here in Achaia, in sort of the north of Arcadia and the south of Achaia. And it's part of the Achaean League, and it's an Achaean city, founded by Achaeans. And the Achaean League is basically this entire area up here, and Elis is over here, Arcadia is down here. Arcadia is hotly contested between Sparta and the Achaean League, and Argos is over here, kind of hanging out. So these two major powers would be the primary powers in the coming discussion. So, also Corinthos is part of the Achaean League. So, Aratus of Sicyon is the commander of the Achaean League forces. He is the strategos of their military, and at the time, he wanted to consolidate the League's power by uniting the Peloponnese under the League, just like Sparta wants to do, like Cleomenes wants to do. And he begins attacking the cities of Arcadia to discover Sparta's inclinations. So he starts launching attacks into Arcadia, which is this central area right here. He starts attacking cities to see how Sparta will react. And Sparta, later on in 229 BC, receives the cities of Tegea and Mantinea and Orchomenos, which isn't on the map, and Capphia, which isn't on the map either, on their side. And they all ally with them, and those cities are also allies of the Aetolian League, which is up here. This is the nation Aetolia on the map now, but the Aetolian League actually controlled like all of this area. Even Delphi was under the control of the Aetolians, and even all the way up into here too. So the Aetolian League was pretty big. But these cities were allies of the Aetolian League, and they decided to join Sparta. Megalopolis, not being one of them, must have been part of the Achaean League. Sparta receives all these cities as part of their sort of coalition. I guess they receive Spartan garrisons, and the Ephors ordered Cleomenes to take Athenaeum, which is a fort up here on the Spartan border adjacent to Megalopolis' territory. This is the city of Megalopolis. Athenaeum must be this fort right here. So Cleomenes gets sent up north to take this fort, and Cleomenes successfully takes Athenaeum and improves the fortifications there. In retaliation, Aratus, so again the strategos of the Achaean League army, launches night assault into Tychia and Orchomenos. So he comes all the way down here and launches a night assault into here, and Orchomenos must be somewhere close to Megalopolis as well, because that would make strategic sense and tactical sense. So he launches a night assault, and his supporters inside the cities failed to aid him, and he ended up retreating so as to not blow his cover and be detected by Cleomenes. Despite that effort, Cleomenes still detects the night attack, and he sends a message to Aratus asking what his purpose was. Aratus says he came to stop Cleomenes from improving the fort, and Cleomenes said, quote, "If it's all the same to you, write and tell me why you brought along those torches and ladders," end quote. So that was kind of a funny remark from Cleomenes, saying, like, so if you really just wanted me to stop fortifying the fort, why did you bring a bunch of supplies along to raid a bunch of cities, like torches and ladders? So after that, Cleomenes advanced into Arcadia, so he goes north from here into the main body of Arcadia, which is all of this, and he's called back by the Ephors as he's advancing out there, and while he comes back, he takes the city of Caphia, which must be a city down here, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. It has to be a city in the south of Arcadia. He comes back after they recall him, and then he takes Caphia somewhere around in the south around here. And then they send him out again because he took the city, and Cleomenes ravages Argos with 5,000 Spartan men. So after that, he goes over to the countryside of Argos and ravages it with 5,000 men. Before the newly appointed strategos of the Achaean League, Aristomachus of Argos, comes onto the stage. So Aristomachus gets appointed as strategos, and they probably appointed a guy from Argos knowing that he would have a personal grudge against Cleomenes, because Cleomenes just ravaged Argos' countryside, and he moves to confront Cleomenes. So he goes down from the heart of the Achaean League up here to attack Cleomenes, and he has 20,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry stationed at a city called Palatium, which must be a city somewhere up in here. And Aratus was now appointed as Aristomachus' advisor and advises him to retreat. Cleomenes' confidence grows once he retreats, and Aratus decides to split off from Aristomachus' army with his own contingent and start attacking Elis, an ally of Sparta, over here. So Cleomenes marched into Elis to fight off the Achaeans. And near Mount Lycaeum, which must be this mountain right here, the Spartans descended on Aratus' men in a fury and routed them. Aratus was believed to be killed in the fighting. Taking advantage of this, Aratus seized Mantinea. So Aratus, everyone thought he was dead. He took advantage of that, and he came back over here and seized the city of Mantinea. The Spartans became so disheartened by the loss of Mantinea, a key city in Arcadia, and they began to oppose Cleomenes in the war effort. In the meantime, the second king of Sparta, remember Sparta has two kings all the time, it's a duarchy, Eudamidas III dies. He's the second king of Sparta. He's back in Sparta making sure everything is alright. You know, one Spartan king does that while the other Spartan king campaigns. It's always like that. And he dies, and there's a rule that once a Spartan king campaigns, the campaigning Spartan king always has full command over Sparta, and he has full control over the Spartan state. So Cleomenes tries to recall his uncle who fled after Aegus was executed by Leonidas II earlier. He fled over to Mycenae and he tries to recall him, so his uncle starts coming back, but then his uncle gets assassinated as soon as he enters Sparta, so that ends any chance for him being the second king. And Cleomenes at this point just forgets having a second king because of that rule I mentioned earlier about how once a Spartan king is campaigning, he has full control anyway, so a second king isn't really needed, as long as the Ephors are there at least. And this is, in this way, Cleomenes really uses the Ephors to watch over things while he's gone, even though he doesn't like them. So his uncle gets assassinated, and Cleomenes decides to just bribe the Ephors to let him continue to campaign. And it works, and he advances into Megalopolis. So Cleomenes comes down here into Megalopolis, and he besieges the village of Leuctra in response to the earlier taking of Mantinea, and Aratus marches down to attack him while he's besieging the village of Leuctra down here. Aratus attacks, and he repels the Spartans at first, but Lydiatus of Megalopolis, the commander of the Achaean cavalry at the time, disobeys Aratus' order not to pursue the Spartans, and he pursues them, and the difficult terrain in this area causes trouble for the Achaeans. The Spartan skirmishers, while retreating, realize the opportunity and counterattack, defeating Lydiatus and his cavalry. After that, the main Spartan army charges the main Achaean army, being encouraged by the success of their skirmishers, and they rout the main Achaean army from the field. So they just do a rebound and rout them from the field. This is a major victory for Cleomenes, and really big reason why Lydiatus felt so confident and such high morale is because he is from Megalopolis. So that would probably have given him high morale because he was fighting in his own country, and he just got overconfident and he decided to ignore Aratus' orders. And really, if I were him, I would not have done that, because he just cost the Achaean League everything in the battle. And anyway, Cleomenes stands as a victor in Megalopolis, and he starts plotting against the Ephors, because at this point he's defeated the Achaean army, so he has a fortified position in Arcadia up here, and he's all good as far as the war goes. He just needs to reform Sparta. And he starts gathering support from his stepfather, who's back in Sparta, and tries to encourage a military expedition down against his opponents in Sparta. The Spartan army is so exhausted after the fighting, all the fighting and raiding that they did, that they ask him if they can stay in their newly fortified position in Arcadia. Cleomenes lets them stay, and he returns to Sparta himself to deal with the Ephors. So he comes back to Sparta on his own. He sends loyal followers inside Sparta to kill the Ephors. 4 of the 5 are perished, and the 5th, Agelaus, escapes, seeking sanctuary in a nearby temple in the countryside. Cleomenes didn't pursue, not wanting to waste time as the job had already been done. The Ephors were destroyed. So at this point, Cleomenes has wiped out the Ephors. He doesn't really need to hunt down the 5th one because it doesn't really matter. So he hunts, so he begins making reforms, and these reforms would be massive for Sparta because they would go against Sparta's traditional culture completely. I mean, the fact that he just wiped out the Ephors is going against Sparta's traditional culture enough, so wait till you see what else he does. And we will discuss these reforms in the next video. So, if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you so desire about what you think the other videos should be about. And it has been my pleasure to you to give you this story about Cleomenes' life up until right before his reforms. And in the next video, we will be going through the remainder of his life, starting with his reforms all the way to his eventual downfall and defeat and death. So, have an amazing time, you Phil Hellenes. The Ancient Greek is out.